Hello everyone, my name is Holden Hardman. Today I wanted to do something not so much different, but this video is kind of more in reference to another video I just did. It was a lightsaber short film video that I did, and I wanted to talk a little bit about how we went about making that. So I love making short films and fun stuff like that, and kind of like with any filmmaker or would-be filmmaker or aspiring filmmaker or whatever, a lot of it comes down to money and time and how do I make this with very limited resources. And so I think I've become pretty proficient about making presentable stuff with very limited budgets. And by very limited budgets, I mean like the biggest budget for anything I've ever had, and this is all self-given, was like maybe $300. And even that I split with somebody. So when I did my Michael Myers versus Jason Voorhees short film, it was about $300 that we spent. We shot out in Crestview, so which is about an hour away from where I live, so that's gas to get there and back. When I typically have people that go out of their way, and you ask, normally whenever you have to get like a small group of friends or whatever, you pretty much take away their entire Saturday or Sunday or whatever day that they film to help you work on a project. So I can't pay them, so I usually will try and buy everybody lunch or buy something like that, after the shoot.
And action. Ooh.
I just hit him full on, man.
I'm good.
So for Star Wars, we spent nothing. We spent $0, which I'm very, very proud of, which was great because we had access to all the stuff beforehand. So the people in the video are cosplayers, and they do lightsaber training specifically. Like there's like a actual art form behind lightsaber fighting that they teach to people locally. So I reached out to them when we did the first one, because this was a follow-up. We did the first one, and I asked them if they wanted to be a part of it and sort of gave them my idea for that first one. And they agreed, choreographed it, we shot it, and then this was just the follow-up. So they had all the costumes, they had the lightsabers, they had the physical know-how of, doing little flippy tricks and stuff like that. I really wanted to have Vader in this one, so I found Jonathan McIntosh, who's part of the 501st, which is like an official Star Wars group that does like Disney-approved events. And, this video is not a part of the 501st, so it was very much just using that costume, and I was very appreciative that he agreed to do it. So I think that everybody that's at like a different level of like where they are as a filmmaker, maybe you're just like a kid wanting to make something, wanting to make Superman short film or a Spider-Man short film or something, and not knowing what all you can do or how to do it. And I'm very much have come into this mindset of like, I don't know if I'm ever going to be a professional filmmaker, so I just want to make what I want to make. When Halloween was happening, I was like, what I think would be awesome is a Michael Myers versus Jason Voorhees fight. I've never really seen that before. Let's make it. Star Wars, I wanted to see Darth Vader, fighting two people. Let's just make it. So rule number one, when you're a poor filmmaker, is use what you have. Use what you have available. Everything that I film in any of the short films, I already had access to for the most part. I think in the Halloween video, we bought some of the costume. I think we bought Michael Myers' costume, and that was really the only actual expense we had aside from gas. And we bought like the Camp Crystal Lake sign and a couple of like little props. Like we bought a couple of different masks to try out, to try for Michael. And so in the beginning of the Halloween short film, there was a car crash. There was a car wreck and a broken car. That's because we had access to that. That car was on a property of my buddies. We asked if we could film using it. What all could we do with the car? Could we make it look worse? It was out in the open. There were like all types of mosquitoes inside. It was like being rained on in the inside. It was just, it was just junked. So they said, yeah, we could do whatever we want to with it. Great. Now I have access to a broken down car. And this one, I really wanted to film inside. And so my uncle owns a local skate shop, which is awesome. I asked him if we could film inside of it. He said, yeah, just give me a time and date. Okay, cool. So in that way, your imagination has to be limited to some extent. Like I know I can't, I'm aware of my limitations. Like I know I can't have Darth Vader shooting lightning down and blowing up buildings, blowing up planets and stuff, because I don't have the VFX know-how to do that really. But I do know how to make lightsabers. I do know how to do clash effects. As a matter of fact, one of the special effects that we did in this one that I had never done before was her throwing the lightsaber, having it flip around and then come back towards her. So that was new territory for me. I'd never done that before. But I knew roughly of how I was going to do it, and we implemented that. So what we did was we took a lightsaber, put it on some wire, like a coat hanger, and wrapped it around the hilt and just flipped it. And we did a couple takes of this to try and get it just right until we finally got the shot that we wanted. And then after that, all you do is you key out the green, You mask out the coat hanger, and then you have a flying lightsaber that's keyed out, and you can do whatever you want to with it. So I can make it bigger, I can make it smaller, I can make it fly this way, I can do whatever I want. So one thing that I've learned pretty early on so far as like collaboration goes, because when you make projects like this, you have to work with other people. You have to ask for favors, and there's limited amounts of things that you can do. The best thing for me to do when I'm trying to give an idea of where I want the story to go or what I want it to look like is I give parameters. So in the first one that we did, I made it very clear I want 6 people fighting on screen at the same time. I want two Sith and I want 4 Jedi. That's what I want. And I want the Sith to win the battle at the very end. And I also want it to be very clear that these Sith are really, really evil. And what better way to do that, as well as a little bit of shock factor for the audience, is to kill a child. So we have them kill a very young Padawan at the very end. So I give these parameters. And Deso, who was the male Sith, wanted to choreograph the whole thing. And it worked out better because they could do it kind of on their own time, and I could be stepped away so they could practice, take however long that they needed to. I would watch like clips here or there, letting me and then give feedback from that. So, and as long as they stay within those parameters, I don't really care what they do. You can give notes here or there, what you like, what you don't like, and yeah. So then they have this whole fight pretty much ready to go by the time we actually go and shoot. Anytime you really do any type of project like this, you have to always be prepared for some things not to go right. And that's exactly what happened here. There were a couple of special effects that we wanted to do. We wanted to do the flying lightsaber, obviously, in frame, in a moving frame, and we wanted to cut off Anna's arm. That was the other thing. In the final video, you see the arm getting sliced and then this hand fall down and roll, and we couldn't really make it look like it wasn't just the most absurdly silly thing ever, because it just looks ridiculous. This little hand flopping and like rolling down, so... I did what I could with that. I don't know how it comes across for a lot of people. Another shot that we had is whenever Vader is choking her right after. It's kind of from this sort of side angle, so the arm that's cut off, you can barely see. But if you notice, if you look close enough, her arm does come into frame and it is cut off. We shot this a couple of different ways, but she's actually wearing a green glove that I just went back and keyed out. You can even notice the lighting is a little bit different here because we needed the light to shine directly on her so that I could key it out better. And so when you do a shot like this, you have a shot of just like Deso laying on the ground back there with her not in it. You have another shot with her standing there, acting like she's being choked by the Force. You overlay the footage and then key out the green. But I also wanted to make it look like it wasn't tripod. It makes the illusion look less believable. So you have to have the camera sort of shake like somebody's holding it. And that's just a very simple handheld effect. The problem that we had is that when he drops her, there was a shot where she was like going to kind of give it a second before she gets back up. And unfortunately, the way that we shot it, you can very clearly see her green arm in the background, and we had no clean plate, so I couldn't key it out. So the way it translates is he drops her, and then she's just sort of immediately sort of springs back up. So I wasn't very happy with that, but we used what you got. When you do lightsabers, you have to go frame by frame, and you end up with really odd shapes of the sabers, and the sabers going behind stuff. So you have to mask out what it's going behind. So it's just a very time-consuming process because not only are you going frame by frame putting the saber there, but because of the frame rate, which we shot in 24 frames, when that shutter opens and closes, it takes in all this information. So if the saber is swinging and you get this shutter that opens and closes, you have sort of like this ghost image of where the saber was. So you have to cover all that up to account for the motion blur. So when they're swinging it a lot and bring it behind their backs, you get these sort of really weird wonky looking shapes. So you have to not only go frame by frame, but account for those weird looking shapes. And then, once you get all the visuals down, you have to do the sounds. Every time that saber moves, you have to get all that. And you can't be too repetitive with the sound. You can to some extent, but you can't do it every single time because they'll be able to recognize that it's just a sound on a loop. So you have to be creative with the sound. So every voom can't be the same type of voom. You see how articulate I am at talking about what I do. And then finally, scoring it. So whenever you score something on YouTube, you have to obviously avoid copyright if you can. Some songs are so iconic to the character, it would almost feel odd not having it included in some way. When we did Halloween, you have that very classic Michael Myers theme song, and it very much wanted to include that. So what I did was I found YouTubers that create music, and they do like a sort of fan-made rendition of it that they produce themselves. Based off of those classics that's still recognizable but is unique enough to where it doesn't get copyright claimed. And so I use songs like that, credit back to the authors, both in the credits and in the description. In the case of Halloween, they actually copyrighted some of that. So I get like revenue sharing for that, which is fine. I wasn't expecting to even be able to monetize that video at all because of how violent it was. So I'm happy to be getting anything from that. Star Wars, there's so many talented Star Wars fans that make such great music. And I use a service that provides classical music that's already copyright free. So I mix the two. I can have unique music that's not been in any Star Wars movies or games or whatever, and also incorporate music that's still identifiable at certain points to make it feel much like, oh yeah, we're still in Star Wars. Knowing the way the Star Wars fandom is, it's a very toxic fandom. I'm just being real. It's very divisive in its nature, and I think the video already has like more dislikes than I think any other video I've made these past few months already. And I went in expecting that. I know that the Star Wars fans are hard to appease no matter how much work I put into it. It doesn't really matter. But this is something that I wanted to see, something that I wanted to make. I wanted to have Vader in my own video. I thought that would be just the coolest thing ever, and I think that it is. So hopefully for the few of you that would even watch a follow-up video like this, I very much appreciate you being supportive of not only that video, but watching a follow-up like this. Any questions or anything about how I filmed any particular parts, feel free to let me know. I'll link the short films that I did in the description below, so if I'm talking about the Halloween video and you're not sure in particular what I'm talking about, you can go and watch that, and that would be great. Anyways, everyone, I appreciate you watching, and I'll catch you in my next video. Take care.